Welcome back to the First Last Nerdum from, excuse me. All right, cut. Welcome back to First Last Podcast from the First, the Last, the Nerdum, where we go back to where it all began. The films that set the blueprint for the hits that followed. This month, we're deep into the Originals month, our series dedicated to the movies that came first, the ones that inspired remakes, reimaginings, and modern classics that sometimes outshine their origins. And this week, we're headed to the Strip, where the Rat Pack Classic, or for the Rat Pack Classic Ocean's 11, directed by Lewis Milestone and starring icons like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., and Sammy Davis Jr. Ocean's 11 follows a group of World War II veterans and starring icons like Frank Sinatra. Oh my God, gee whiz! Came together to pull off an ambitious New Year's Eve casino heist. It's cool, it's stylish, it's packed with charisma, but it's also very much a product of its time, leaning leaning as much on the charm of the cast as it does on the mechanics of the heist itself. Of course, this is a film that would later be reimagined into a slick, fast paced modern classic that most audiences know today. But how does the original hold up? Does it deliver as a heist film? Or is it a fascinating time capsule of a different era of Hollywood? Cool. your your narration skills suck, Mike. Anyway, we'll be breaking down its legacy, its influence, and whether Ocean's 11 deserves more credit as the original blueprint for one of the most beloved heist franchises out there. So grab your tux, place your bets, and get ready for a heist where the style is just as important as the score. This is First Last Podcast, and the Originals month continues with Ocean's 11. Hi, you Tom.
Yo 11. Yo
Yola.
11. Yeah, hey, Mike. I'm ready.
Yeah,
Let's do this
absolutely. Yeah, I'm
thing.
gonna flip us over in the high gear here
Hmm.
with the good old screen share. I beg the audience's pardon there for that terrible intro. I have just been. I usually am not. Well, let's just put this way. I'm not great anyway, but that's okay. But and in the meantime here, I'm
Hey,
going to
you
turn off.
were you were celebrating Memorial Day weekend, you know? Yeah, it's
Well, I wish I could claim that, but
yeah.
I'm just not great at the thing. But that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. So, who are we? What are we? What is this thing here? I'm going to go through the bona fides real quick. And we are Mike and Tom, and we do this little thing called First Last Nerdum. That's our
Hmm.
website, nerd.com, firstlastnerdum.com, where you can find all of our cool stuff, as well as it's uh, real true home base is YouTube, as
Hmm.
the 400 and almost 450 people out there can attest to. We thank you so much if you come by way of YouTube or
Yep. And
otherwise. We have other
I
social
did
medias.
I did put out a new short
Oh, that's right. I did see that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
for Odin, a new comic book. If you're into Nazis trying to raise a Norse god in the wilderness of Norway, you might want to check that out. But yeah, carry on. Um, yeah, yeah. I think you're gonna hit us with the socials.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, we're gonna go. I was
Hmm.
gonna go right into it, and I believe you're up first on the Reddit. Tell us what's going on the Reddit.
Well, hadn't got deleted recently or filtered by the Reddit filters. But yeah, we're hanging in tight. So yeah, if you are coming in over from Reddit, hello. But yeah, they like to they don't like us there, so we just kind of sneak in wherever we can. I know Mike's had some struggles with that. I'm also on X. I'm under both Reddit and X under First Last Nerdum. X is where I'll post our latest and greatest. So yeah, there you go. And Mike, you have your socials.
Yeah, about that. What? Why do you hate me, Reddit? What? Why? Why do you? I try. Anyway, yeah. So I will not be coming back to Reddit because they don't want me to. I really tried, and Tom can. Anyway, well, you can find me on another platform called X underscore at something Jewish underscore. Anyway, that's enough of my scribbling. I'm just disappointed, and I'm glad that we can meet people, whatever. But I don't know. I just, I guess the era of, for me, the era of Reddit is over unless I can some kind of figure out a way to hardwire an AI or something like that. But this little guy here, Ocean's 11, as I come up here, I'm gonna paint a picture here for the folks to understand what's going on here with this thing. You know, you have this beautiful classic. I would even dare I say noir-ish. Definitely, it's not a noir, but there is a little bit, not so much a mystery of footage. It's kind of like what happens when you put all these, literally that generation's the coolest people on the planet, and you put them all together, and you give the Frank Milestone excuse me, Lewis Milestone, Frank Sinatra. Lewis Milestone was the director for this guy, and he showed up, ready to do his director thing, and he's very good credentials. Um, uh, he definitely is he has he did All Quiet on the Western Front. 1930. I mean, he comes from he comes from Emmy award winning. He's award winning director at that point in
Academy, yeah,
time.
Academy Award winning.
Yeah, Academy, excuse me, Academy Award winning director. And then he shows up in January of 1960 to the set, and he finds out that he's director in name only. He shows up and he sees this Frank Sinatra guy, and everything revolves around Frank Sinatra and this film. Back in the era that was they were the, like I said, they were the Joe Rogan plus of their time. And anyway, this is the originals that I had picked, that I wanted to go over, and of course the 2000 version was started with the famous most famous people today, and has it actually went on to be a franchise that they're in. This one is from a different era. You got these guys, they're pulling together all their war buddies to pull off a heist, this day in the ocean. It's a little bit set up a little bit different than the new one. Um, but I don't know, Tom. What's your history with this, with the 2000 remake as well as the 1960s version that is wholly its own?
I have no history. Well, I was aware of them, but I have never seen them. So, either one. So I'm watching this one fresh with fresh eyes. Yeah, I admirer of different guys in this. I'm back in the 2000s. I was became a big Dean Martin guy. I was listening to a lot of his music, and he's a cool guy. And I've always had a fascination with Sammy Davis Jr. I know he had um, a little thing with the Church of the Church of Satan with Anton LaVey. He had some runnings around with him. So I've always been kind of fascinated by Sammy. And we did a movie earlier this year. Where Anton LaVey was involved with, but no, but yeah, no, I'm digging it, and also with Sammy Davis Jr. I gotta say, I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole
Uh-huh.
because one of the things I was, uh, I think I was watching David Letterman and he brought this up, but there was a commercial that Sammy Davis Jr. did for, I think it was like a Jewish liqueur that was popular during the holidays. He did a commercial for it, and his tagline for it, because he did do the one I could find online was one for a Japanese liquor called Centauri, where he does a little kind of improv, kind of thing. But in this one, the tagline for Manischewitz was "Man, oh Manischewitz," and that was my catchphrase for a while there. When something would happen, I said, "Man, oh Manischewitz," and I was trying to find it, and I could not find that commercial anywhere on the interwebs. And finally, I thought, well, maybe I'm going crazy, and I asked ChatGPT, "Am I going crazy? Was this a thing?" And the ChatGPT goes, "Yeah, you're not going crazy. It was a thing." So they tried to link me to a video of it, and they did find one, but it wasn't that particular one. So if someone in the audience can find a link to that, please post it, because if you're a big Sammy fan like I am, and you have that link. Evidently, I'm not the biggest one, because I can't find that. But yeah, that's my little thing. Yeah, I'm kind of obsessed with different guys in this. And, you got old Blue Eyes, but no, I've never seen this. It's one of those movies where, when growing up, it the what was cool like a few decades ago was not cool then. So like when I was growing up, these guys, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not really interested in that. And then later on, with the 2000s, that was the 2000s, about when I was like, yeah, I don't care about popular big blockbusters. So it was not on my radar, because I was into the obscure, the independent film, the weird horror movies. I was big into Takashi Miike and all that stuff.
Mhm.
I thought it was cooler than cool. I didn't need all these popular blockbuster movies. I didn't need those. So yeah, these movies have never been it never aligned to where I was primed to watch these. But as I've gotten older, I've always kind of wanted to go back and watch this movie,
Mhm.
because yeah, you've got your old Las Vegas, which is kind of fascinating, and you got these guys. So yeah, I was kind of interested in seeing it, but I might not have ever got around to watching it without your kind of nudge for the show. So yeah, that's my history of that.
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad that we could do this one. And I occasionally will like I think we both like what we like for sure, but
Hmm.
there we both can appreciate the films from the past, and that I really love the from the 40s to 50s. This like I just love that whole era of film, and I've
Hmm.
mentioned many times I have overpaid for my stupid turn on YouTube TV only for the express reason of watching Turner Classic Movies or their that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And I love going back, and I probably for about a decade now, before we started doing this, like I started revisiting, kind of like I had time, and I was like, oh, I'll go back and I'll revisit, North by Northwest, or all these other like some of my favorite Hitchcock
Hmm.
and noir kind of films and whatnot, and just watch
Hmm.
them, just because I never
Hmm.
watched them, and then you kind of watch them the second or third time, and you kind of pay a little bit more attention. And I know that that's what we do here with this thing, and I did kind of just want to kind of set the table too, because this is just such a unique era of American history. This is essentially this is also a different archaeological discovery of Las Vegas too, because it's changed over time. And it just
Hmm.
got done remaking itself too, post COVID and with the F1 and other attractions. And now Vegas is going after a different demographic than it used to be. Like even from like back in the 90s into OOs or
Hmm.
whatever, like where it had a little bit more of a maybe moving away from the CD feel to like a little bit more of a
Hmm.
family, where you
Right.
can bring your family and you can do stuff with the
Hmm.
family, but you can also do this other
Hmm.
stuff here too. But you have this thing
Hmm.
anyway. I was saying, I touched on before, like Lewis Milestone. He is a genuine legend. He was. Here he's coming off of, like I said, he had best comedy. He won best comedy for Two Arabian Nights in 1929, and he also had one I had mentioned before with All Quiet on the Western Front as well. So he's a serious filmmaker, and then you have this. He definitely was in his decline by 1960, but that's okay, but if it weren't for him and how seriously he took the cinematography and the shots and stuff, it was a very hard deal with him and Frank Sinatra to kind of even get this thing made, because you had Frank Sinatra who he had a one take policy, meaning you just did one take. And the reason why is because Sinatra felt that like if you did more than one take, it would lose its authenticity. It would lose its it's a verve, I guess. And because these guys, you got to remember, they were doing two shows a night, for like a month, around the same time. Like while they made the movie during the day, and then they would perform at night. And you had Dean Martin, who is a master. I also got probably it was late '90s, or well, it was probably more like '00s, not '90s, but like probably mid to '00s, like where I started getting into Dean Martin too, and some of the old crooners and stuff like that too,
Mm-hmm.
Tom. And anyway, Dean Martin was really cool because he would just researching this, he would typically have his like everybody else would have bourbon or whatever, and he would have some apple juice because his kind of playboy shtick, his things that you couldn't get away with saying, and that kind of that atmosphere, that looser kind of in that kind of entertaining back and forth with the audience. He would drink apple juice. But anyway, he knew how to kind of riff on all these guys knew kind of how to do that kind of thing. And here you had Lewis Milestone, who is he's like probably expecting a script and this and that, and everything goes through Sinatra. But because Lewis Milestone knew how to set the table, he knew how to shoot the scene and how to set these up. It works. Sometimes there are technical errors that you'll see in kind of some of the shots and things and whatnot, but this just kind of like loosely put together, but it did work. But anyway, another thing, I had never kind of watched this like point blank. Like I mean I'd seen it a long time ago, but going back and seeing it because I had also seen the 2000 version of Ocean's 11. It was just really cool to go back and be able to see this part. But anyway, this there's a lot more history that we'll get into here too. And one of those things I just want to kind of call out because you had mentioned Sammy Davis Jr. That
Mm-hmm.
back then that was a different world back then, and Sammy Davis Jr. was allowed to perform on the stage at the Sands hotel, but once the show was over, he couldn't sit down to eat, and he couldn't sleep in a room there. After the fact, he had to go all the way across town to a black owned hotel, the Moulin Rouge, from the Sands, and it was really it's starting to get in the way of things. And Frank Sinatra had been in the army, and he had been a pretty aggressive proponent of integration, and basically off of the strength of Frank Sinatra essentially running the town when he saw that and heard that, uh, he had uh, he had worked with a bunch of folks to get into and to put together a summit. He didn't put together, but it was the NAACP and some other folks, some black leaders of that era, there, and they all kind of came together and was like, look, we got to do something about this and fix it, and they did. And it was like one of the earliest times to that it did that they did that because of the economic impact. And anyway, it was just like kind of a really cool thing, and we might get into that a little bit later. But I just wanted to highlight that, to compare it against the 2011 or 2001 version of Steven Soderbergh's, which is much more modernized, much more traditional movie. Completely different kind of tilt on the heist versus the 1960s. They make very detailed, are very opinionated changes. You can just see the difference in the era between 2001 and 1960. But what did you think of the thing? Did anything kind of, because it is a kind of completely different kind of movie than even they would have made in the 1960s. But did it work for you? Did the whole ambiance capturing kind of them just having a conversation and capturing the atmosphere of the main guys here work for you at all, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I read where they did a lot of their own ad libbing, so so there was a looseness. Like, yeah, it makes sense. I didn't know about the one take policy, but that kind of makes sense. Well, for one, I mean, I'm sure Frank Sinatra, like you said, he was doing shows as well, so he wanted to get it done. But yeah, so that it does lead to a little bit more looser kind of see your pants kind of deal. I did I kind of found it interesting that I was reading where I guess Peter Lawford was first told about the film's basic premise by director Gilbert Kay, who had heard the idea from a filling station attendant. So the filling station. I was very fascinated about that. I couldn't find anything more about this filling
Sure.
station attendant. And was he credited? Is he one of the writers? No, probably not. But yeah, and then I found a couple of sources where when once Lawford told Sinatra about the story, he goes, "Forget the movie, let's pull the job." You know. But yeah, no, I was kind of fascinated by that. No, yeah, yeah. You know, when you get these guys, these personalities together, of course, they're kind of larger than life, and they show that on the screen. I guess one of the things that I kept going back to on this was that yeah, it is an interesting crime story. It's a heist. Um, but you got 11 people and you have 5 casinos. That's a lot. And this movie's a little over 2 hours. It kind of needed that. It actually kind of needs a little bit more time because, yeah, you really don't get to know very many of these characters. And, you know, they all are characters, so you kind of want to know a little bit about all of them. But with 11 of them, plus the guy that's fronting the money or whatever for this, yeah, it's sort of like yeah, and the Angie Dickinson's in it for a couple of scenes, and you're like, okay, yeah, I thought she was like one of the stars. She's sort of like cameo, more or less. So yeah, you got freaking Joker in there, Cesar Romero. So you know, but yeah, you have all these interesting characters that you want to know more about. But yeah, even like the main guys, you do get a sense of who they are, but they pretty much remain kind of surface level. You
Right.
never get really deep into it. Of course, that's not what this film's about. It's more about the interplay between the different characters and the scenes. Yeah, and I can see where there's a lot of influence from, say, Tarantino about the wash of the cool. I can see where this movie kind of impressed upon him what's cool. You know, there's a flavor of that in all of his movies when he's trying to portray cool. This is sort of what he's aiming for. But yeah, there's that. But yeah, and you do have some interesting actual cameos. Shirley MacLaine pops up and Red Skeleton. That was kind of fun to see. But yeah, overall, it was a enjoyable movie with its flaws, but I think it's probably wears its flaws on its sleeve. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like it's not trying to be pretentious. It's not trying to be above what it is. It is what it is. I was also, you always hear about the Rat Pack. You hear about the in my generation it was the Brat Pack, but that was the younger audience. But yeah, the Rat Pack. I was kind of fascinated when I was reading about it that the Rat Pack really wasn't solidified at that point, and that there was an earlier version that what's the Bogart had sort of cemented together, and Frank Sinatra sort of took over from there. I guess with this movie because a lot of them were at odds with Frank Sinatra. I know Peter Lawford they said was kind of they were kind of having a mix up, and Sammy wasn't real happy with Sinatra before this movie too. Did you do any research on that?
Yeah, they there was a lot of sloppiness around the film. Like I said, these guys were performing and doing this later at the day, so there was they didn't have time for friction per se. But yeah, there's a lot to get into, and just the level of star power, just in one area like that. There were, but what did you hear? Did you find any one thing more interesting than another from the personalities involved? Because there definitely were
Oh yeah.
personalities.
No, there. I guess it's from a time where a lot of the stuff kind of kept was kept kind of hush hush. But yeah, basically, the what I could read was that that there was some bad blood between Peter Lawford and Sinatra before this movie, and once they got together, I think it this movie kind of brought them together a little bit closer. The same with Sammy.
Yeah.
Sammy wasn't real fond of Sinatra before the movie, but I guess for him, Sinatra making making them let Sammy go into like the main hotels and stuff, and what he did for him probably ingratiated Sinatra to them. But yeah, nothing. I didn't read about anything big that happened as far as conflicts on there before or after that. But of course, I didn't dig too deep into it.
Yeah,
But yeah.
actually, going back to your original the Bogart Rat Pack. Yeah, that was Lauren Bacall who that it was just like Bogart, Sinatra, Judy Garland, David Niven, and Swifty Lazar, and some others, whatever. But they were in the, like you said, mid '50s to late '50s, and then later on it was Sinatra's Rat Pack was more about the insider Hollywood inside club, and was also a bit less like a show.
Yep.
But yeah.
Oh, I was going to bring up now. Now you brought this one to the table. We had the idea. We kind of played around with what we wanted to do with this month. You wanted to do Ocean's 11, and I'd said something about remakes and the originals and the remakes, and I didn't have a clear idea because I originally thought, well, we would do the originals and then we'd do the remake, but then we'd only get to do two movies that month, basically. And but yeah, we kind of worked out where, well, we'll just do the original movies. And yours was Ocean's 11, along with the short that you picked. But yeah, and I brought City on Fire as one of my picks, and there's City on Fire and Ocean's 11 on the surface look like miles away. That they're
Yeah.
not anywhere. There's no connection between these two films, but they are both crime films. They do have a crime element to them. But when I was watching this movie, it kept getting more and more connections. I mean, it's a Christmas, New Year's Eve movie, much
That's
like
right.
City on Fire is, and there's the we won't get into too much spoilers, but there's a scene at the end where the guys are walking kind of cool from this along the strip, and Tarantino kind of apes that in Reservoir Dogs, the beginning
Right.
of Reservoir Dogs, very reminiscent of the end of this movie. And if you know anything, Reservoir Dogs was probably a little bit of the plot got stolen from City on Fire. So there's like this circle, there's this kismet, there's like this synchronicity that keeps happening when we pick our
Well,
movies. That there's
well,
like, we don't intentionally do that, but there's like these connections that
well,
are laid.
well, you also have, and I agree with you. You only get some of the characters, some of the main character are you're skimming over the treetops. I mean, you're not going below the canopy. You're just not
Hmm.
for some of the characters, and that's okay. Some of them are, okay, you stand here, okay, you
Hmm.
stand there, okay, and then we're going to talk about this other
Hmm.
thing. Like you had
Yeah.
Danny Ocean, who is the leader of this gang. This, his men. He's got his
Hmm.
estranged wife Beatrice, and Angie Dickinson, like you said, who's like hi, hi, bye, which is like I just said, that essentially, but she left him in this story because he can't stop chasing his next thing, the next scheme, the next
Hmm.
thing. He's not poor. He's bored.
Hmm. Yeah, and
He's
he's dating around even though he's married.
again, 1960s. It was a completely different universe. Okay, well, that's just one thing. Like there's kind of also the ambiance of the thing. But
Hmm.
he's got this. And by the way, she's estranged from him. So it's not like they're living in under the same roof, or whatever. It's just not going great for him there. But anyway, he's already flawed. He's got this thing, but he likes to he led men, and he understands that civilian life for whatever reason is just not doing it for him, and it doesn't compare to what he faced with his these the brotherhood and the danger of war, and you have that. But that anyway, that you're right. It does kind of set the table of like kind of proving something, I guess. Kind of sort of like these characters that we talked about, and whether it's City on Fire or whatever, some of them, whether they're our protagonists or the antagonists or whatever, like they gotta have to prove something, or do something, or be motivated. Of course, the 2001 version is a completely different kind of take on that, and it kind of sets it up to be George Clooney's kind of his version. Um, but you have the plot, and I mean they do have the heist in this, and I don't know, the heist in the remake of this is completely different. I mean,
Yeah, I would assume so, because one of the
right.
things that I noticed in this movie, that's way different than modern movies, is that the details in modern movies, even though they may still not make complete sense, laid out a little bit more clearly, and they kind of they kind of try to cover all their bases on why, how all the things kind of play out. With this one, it's sort of like they have this sort of a big overall plan for it. They kind of go over the key points, and then they have it play out. But every time I'm like, oh, what? How did they get that? Where did that come from? How are they doing that? But a lot of it's more answered in modern movies, whereas this one, you kind of have to kind of go with the flow. It's like, where did they get all these this sanitation truck?
Well, and just like this kind of sets the standard for the genre to a certain degree, because you have the plot kind of it just became famous, and it was aped in different movies in their own way. But like the recruitment, and you have the recruitment and the veterans, and putting together the team, and as you get to the team, then here's a little bit more of the plot kind of falls in place, or what you think falls in place, and da 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 da. So you have you have the heist layer that starts to build. Of course, Tarantino has done that differently too, as well as other more like point to point, more pure films like City on Fire, for example.
Yeah. There's that correlation as well. And you got Peter Lawford as Jimmy Foster. He's sort of like the yin to Danny Ocean's yang.
Yeah.
They're like the main players. I was going to point out that Sammy Davis Jr.'s character's name's Josh Howard. Sammy's not a Josh Howard. They should have got a better name for him.
Yeah.
Sammy's not a because Joey Bishop's mushy O'Connor's.
Right.
I did like Henry Silva. He's in a lot of movies. He's sort of like the guy that goes after the looks for the electrician guy at the beginning of the movie. He's got a very distinctive face. I was going to say this about the Ocean's 11, is that all, either by design or by happenstance, all of the characters are very distinctive looking. When you got 11 guys, there's a risk of having a couple of guys, two or three guys looking a bit the same, and you get kind of confused on who each guy is. But everybody, even though they don't get a lot of screen time, they're very distinctive looking, so you never get confused on who's that guy. Which I don't know if that's the same case for the newer Ocean's 11, but yeah, everybody's kind of I don't know if they're all character actors, but they could be.
Yeah, well, I mean, from Dean Martin, who's like Sam Harmon, who essentially just played himself. That's what he always did. And you had mentioned Josh Howard. Sammy Davis Jr. He drives a garbage truck. He's the biggest black entertainer in America, playing a character who drives a garbage truck.
Mm-hmm.
Just but
Yeah.
and you have Tony Bergdorf who plays Richard Conti there, who he's kind of essentially is he's the demolition expert, but he doesn't necessarily have a great heart. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have the best ticker, which
Mm-hmm.
may or may not come into play. But he joins the heist too, and so does you. But I do think Soderbergh does a better job. I think he does a better job about just about everything in this film that is related to Hollywood and filmmaking per se. He doesn't. There's a different kind of cool and an ambiance that kind of comes in with George Clooney and Brad Pitt and others. That's a whole other side of that. Anyway, so they don't really have to work or try hard. They just got to show up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think some of the weakness probably could be in this film, or that there aren't kind of those clear delineations or whatever. But that you still have Ocean, Foster, and Harmon and Berg, all the characters that are there. They do carry. I think they do carry a lot of the weight. And what they all have in common, and I appreciated that. I mean, it did feel like they had pretty good chemistry. You kind of do buy that they did surf together at some point, or whatever, back in the
They have a
old
history,
days.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But
But
yeah, I definitely enjoyed. We didn't get enough of Norman Fell. He's a childhood. He's a part of my childhood watching Three's Company. But yeah, Norman Fell. He's very distinctive looking as well.
very, very
But
true.
yeah. Yeah, and a fine comedian in his own right. But yeah, he yeah, like I said, this is kind of jam packed with people. So you unless you love the main guys, yeah, you're probably feeling a little left out if you're looking for a little bit more of some of the minor guys. And is like I says, is not due to lack of runtime. I mean, this thing is 2 hours and 7 minutes, and I think I don't know. What I guess they wanted to make it grand, since it's Vegas, and this is they're going to be making $1 million a piece. Um, they wanted to do five casinos, and that kind of makes the sense that they would need 11 people. But yeah, it just seems like maybe it's a little bit too broad. Maybe they could have narrowed it down to like what they did during the discussions. Maybe go down to 3 or 4 casinos. But I guess they had to hit like all the major ones. They couldn't leave one of them out, so they kind of had to do all five. I don't know. That's kind of speculations. As I was watching it, since it was done in 1960s, decades ago. But I wasn't spoiled on the ending. I didn't know how this movie ended, and I kept speculating, and you might do that as well when you're watching this. Is that obviously they had to get permission from all of these casinos to film there. So I was kind of being kind of meta and thinking, okay, well, you know, the casinos had to allow them to film there, so they're not going to be all on board for the robbing of their casinos. There's got to be something. How it wraps up, that's gonna, I'm kind of playing. It's like, okay, yeah, okay. And so there's got to be something where it's not completely
Right.
cool. Yeah, there's an idea, and also I don't know how far away from the haze thing where you had to have, if you have a bad guy in a movie, they have to face the consequences in some way.
Right.
I didn't know if that was still in play with this movie since it was the '60s. So I knew, I didn't know exactly how it was going to end, but yeah, just because of the time, the fact that the casinos were involved, I knew they weren't going to get away scot free. It
Right.
wasn't going to be a Tarantino movie where the bad guys might make it out.
Yeah. well, they had the heist,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a contrast and the difference between the original and the remake. This original is a little bit more central, but and they kind of did have to kind of set themselves up to be like, if you're going to have everybody like the Rat Pack and have this big everything's so big, you can't just knock off one. You got to knock off the whole town essentially. It's or at least the big
Right.
casinos. So you have this, you have the heist, and then you have this blackout, and I'll kind of leave it there, and that allows them enough time, and then something happens, and I won't say what, but you had Tom had mentioned, but kind of before, and I will say this: I do think that the gentleman that did Bergdorf, excuse me, um, good grief. Um, he I think he does a pretty damn good job of pulling this thing together. But Anthony Bergdorf, excuse me, the character played by Richard Conte, and I don't. Well, I'll pause there because I did know about the ending, but it is like I said, it is from a different era, and this
Mm-hmm.
is so far and away different than like what you would get today, or like whereas the remake, it's the motivation is different, but this is the kind of
Mm-hmm.
the ending, and I'll kind of leave it there because I don't want to spoil it either, for other folks out there, because if you watch this movie and then you go and watch the newer one, they
Mm-hmm.
are they are they are the same movie, but they are different, because you have a different thing, because crime doesn't pay. Or
Yeah.
should not pay. I'll put that way.
Mm-hmm.
Should not pay. But you have this thing is done, and I'll leave it there, and I'll kind of see where you want to go from there, Tom, or what, or if you wanted to catch any kind of other theme, or kind of circle back and see like this. This is kind of like that newer, or this became a thing of like the heist film as a hangout film. you know,
Mm-hmm.
I love that there are these scenes that are longer and they just kind of go on and on and on and on and on. I love those, and those are unique to this film too. That are completely different than like you would see, and that's true too of older films of that era too. Like where you would kind of have a scene that would go on for a pretty long time, that would not be normal, like in a modern film or whatnot. But anyway, just kind of a difference in era of touch, for how they do those kind of things.
Yeah, yeah. There's a scene where Sinatra does the prank phone call to their benefactor guy, which is kind of entertaining. Sort of a jackass move, but that was kind of entertaining. I was going to point out one of the names. I always kind of look at the director and the writers of it, see if there's a noteworthy name I see. But yeah, one of them, the names, it said based on a story by George Clayton Johnson, which he kind of stood out. I know that name, and sure enough, yeah, he's a science fiction writer. He co-wrote Logan's Run. He did several episodes of The Twilight Zone, and he did an episode of Star Trek. But yeah, evidently he was the one that originally wrote the story. He originally wrote it he attempted it as a novel, actually, and he reached out to a former World War II paratrooper friend. Looks like his name was Jack Golden Russell. For ideas for authenticity, and but yeah, he then decided that it would probably be best as a screenplay. He wrote the screenplay to it, and then and gave it to and Peter Lawford optioned it. But yeah, and it ended up, they pretty much changed everything from it. So I guess that's why it was story by. But since we're kind of in love with science fiction here on our channel, I thought I'd point out, give a shout out to George Clayton Johnson there. And
Awesome.
yeah, he's yeah, you would think a a sci-fi writer would have been involved in this, but hey, there you go. But yeah, yeah, and that Jack Golden Russell is credited with the story as well. So yeah.
Good, good.
Shout out to our paratroopers on this Memorial Day, which we're recording.
Yeah. I was gonna say too. You have this kind of the city that sits in the natural tension too that we didn't even talk about or touch on the mob back then too as well. And
Hmm.
it was uh, where Sammy Davis Jr. could, like I had mentioned before, could headline a casino but not sleep in it. These guys also kind of are they peaked at 25 and then they spent the next 15 years kind of like in a way, the film kind of ends on a downbeat a little bit, not because of the ending per se, but because of like these guys are these they're older, and they all kind of came together for this thing, and it just was interesting to see that,
Hmm.
and they're not career criminals either. They're,
Hmm.
at least in this one, they're not professional thieves. Like whereas in the remake, they're a little bit more. There's just that they're highly trained World War II veterans, and they all served together. So they survived. They jumped out of a plane. They survived, and then they came home to a country that had moved on.
Yeah.
And you know, they were there. I guess they're still kind of looking for that thing out there, which is interestingly, I think that's more relatable to a wider swath of veterans, and I think that's why kind of these classic kind of films like that echo, and I think I as a veteran have affinity to for that,
Yeah.
like where you kind of have that. It's just a very interesting juxtaposition, and this film doesn't spend too much time on there, but you can see it written in the character on the faces, and like when they come back home, and that
Hmm.
they're doing this or that. But it's there. It's
Hmm.
kind of hard to grab onto. I would say there, but there is that that I got from it, which is also, and it's also just kind of cool too, just in
Yeah,
general.
no, I think the fact that they didn't get too involved with the various characters, so that the weight of the ending doesn't weigh too much on you. It's more of a comedic ending, so to speak. What happens is
Right.
kind of funny, kind of funny. But yeah, so that the the consequences of these guys not getting the money isn't played out. Danny Ocean's no matter what's going to land on his feet. And Jimmy Foster's got money regardless from
Right.
his dear old mom. And then the Sam, the Dean Martin character, Sam Horton or Harmon or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a successful lounge singer. He's gonna be okay. But poor Sammy, Josh Howard, that's a garbage truck runner. He's not gonna be all right. If they stole that garbage truck, he might be running into some consequences there. So, but yeah, you don't know what the other characters, the consequences of what happened, how it's going to play out for the individuals. So the weight of it doesn't weigh you on the ending. You're just kind of fascinated by the interesting twist ending that happens, and are kind of left with the kind of a bittersweet, I would say a bittersweet ending that kind of leaves you okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, and you got the I like that the villain or the antagonist of the piece is Caesar Romero. He's sort of larger than life as well. Who he's very big in my childhood playing Joker, but he does a great job here as the villain of the piece.
Right, right. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. That's the you also kind of have a very unique, very unique ending sequence of a film.
Yeah, yeah.
There.
Yeah, and it was fun seeing Shirley MacLaine, a young Shirley MacLaine, as the drunk lady, unintentionally kind of almost messing up the heist there, and the Dean Martin has to come to the rescue of the electrician guy, but yeah, I think a lot of the dialogue was. kind of ad libbed, and I know that she says something to the fact that she's into Ricky Nielsen or whatever, and he used to be Ricky, but now he's Perry Como or something. Where I guess I was reading where he used to get confused with Perry Como back in the day, so there's sort of a nod to to that. But yeah, there's a lot of inside jokes in this movie that we're just not aware of. But yeah, I'm sure if someone in the audience is bigger into this that wants to point those out, that would be kind of interesting. But yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, there was a very playful atmosphere on making this movie. So if you're at all, you kind of have to be receptive to that.
Right. Right.
If you're already got you don't want to watch it and you got a chip on your shoulder, you're not going to enjoy it.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, if
It's a
you're
hangout movie.
receptive,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So if you're receptive to just chilling out and watching it and kind of getting into it, you definitely can. Also, it's much like City on Fire, it's which took place in 1980s, 87, I believe, in Hong Kong. That's sort of like a slice of life, a time that no longer exists. And so it's kind of almost a travelogue or a kind of a snapshot of what that time period was like. And there's a lot of time spent on the streets of City on Fire, and you get this flavor of what Hong Kong was looking like at that time. Whereas this one's definitely a slice of life of Las Vegas, of a time that no longer exists, places that no longer exist. It was enjoyable just watching the scenery as the characters kind of chew up the scenery with their dialogue. It was just fun to look at that time period that no longer exists. That almost it's almost kind of quaint. There's like the edge of kind of sleaze that isn't quite is a little bit more refined sleaze than what you would find in the 70s. But yeah, there's that sleazy cool of the 60s.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I agree. Well, and that's the thing. Like when I said hangout movie, some Reservoir Dogs kind of a hangout movie. Like
Hmm.
that's
With blood and
the
bullets.
absolutely, yeah. It's same kind of concept, but executed completely different.
Hmm.
One obviously of its era that had a moral obligation to adhere to the Hayes Code of whatever,
Hmm.
and kind of stick the landing for how that worked, where you have a universe that's maybe indifferent. I don't know. I'll leave. That's what I'll put on the tombstone. That's what I read on the tombstone of the ending
Hmm.
for Ocean's 11. It is cool. It's one of those things that will never come again. And if it is, it's a remake, or it should be completely something different else. And essentially, that's what you get with Steve Soderbergh's um, um, ha, uh, his at bat later, 40 years later, 41 years
Hmm.
later, from June, or excuse me, January of 1960. I think that did take very long to film this, considering, of course, that was back a different day, different era, and of course, it was a
Especially if
different.
they're doing first takes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, they're not screwing around, and they like it had said, that the guys that are in the show that are starring, they're also doing shows two
Hmm.
nights a week, or
Yep.
excuse me, yeah, two nights a week, and whatever else they got going on. I mean, they certainly
Hmm.
weren't as interconnected as like the Jet Set. I mean, they were the Jet Set back then, but like
Yeah.
nowadays, like where everybody else has like three companies, and three extra, I don't know, layers of whatever.
Yeah, from what I read, yeah, the cast and crew, a lot of them were doing the shows, and then they would show up after doing all that, and they would shoot between 3 a.m. and dawn, which is pretty crazy. But that's probably what they were doing anyway. They'd go out to celebrate after doing the shows. I'm
Right.
sure they were sleeping in and then waking up, doing their shows again, and then filming all night. Doesn't sound like a too bad of a deal. And then I like that. It was kind of interesting that it's not a musical movie, even though you got a lot of guys that sing. You have Sammy doing. I did my wonderful rendition of EO11. He does that a couple of times, and then Dean Martin does "Ain't That a Kick in the Head?"
Hmm.
And then uh, there's another song in it, but that's pretty much it. You would think there would probably be more music heavy. Now, yeah, and that's probably a kind of indicator of the day. There wasn't a immediate movie comes out. You also had the soundtrack that came out. You didn't have that coordination.
Right.
Whereas if it was made, with the same people during the 2000s or whatever, you would
Oh,
have to
right.
have a packed soundtrack that would sell like millions of copies. But yeah,
And
that wasn't
and
a thing.
yeah, and a marketing plan with the Happy Meal toy, all the way out. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
It's a glimpse. And the other thing too is I think I don't know how many of them. I think they're all gone. But the those five casinos are pretty much all gone. I
Hmm.
mean the newer versions or
The
whatever.
original, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But the original, I think one is around. But either way, Las Vegas completely changes itself over the time,
Hmm.
to now, like where you have that big ball thing that they have, the sphere or whatever. I don't.
Hmm.
Forgive
Yeah.
me for not knowing what that is. I apologize to the beautiful people in Las Vegas for not knowing that. But that
Hmm.
thing, and then what the I've also heard that way on your strip now, like you better not be chilling for very long on any given part of the strip, because you better get walking along. You better get moving,
Hmm.
because of whatever. Like maybe that's not so bad if it's not race seasons or whatever. I don't know, but I know that they do their own thing there. But it's a different world. But this also movie is from a different world, different time, just like City on Fire.
Hmm.
That 80s kind of that Hong Kong feel is very unique to itself, just like
Hmm.
this is, and it kind of
Hmm.
almost is a character in and of itself. But it
Yeah,
does.
definitely.
This one is worth it, I think. And this one did have a commentary track on it that I listened to. It was okay. I think it was like Frank
Hmm.
Sinatra Jr. And it was like,
Hmm.
not all DVD or movie commentary is created equal. I'll just put it that way. Like, there have been
Yeah.
famous ones like where they're just like, what with it, like where they're not even talking about the movie that they're showing making happen. But anyway, but I mean,
Yeah.
great that. But anyway, I think that's we're coming up to the end of the caboose here. But
Yeah.
this one,
And
go ahead.
oh, go. I was just gonna say, I didn't listen to the commentary, but I did find a little snippet from IMDb's little trivia thing that I found interesting. Now, this is deals with the ending, so if you don't want the movie spoiled and you hadn't seen it yet, skip ahead here. But let me read you what I got here because I found it kind of interesting. According to Frank Sinatra Jr., in the DVD commentary, Danny Ocean and his men made it out of Las Vegas with the money by getting away on a chartered plane flown by one of the 11. But then the entire gang is killed in a plane crash, and no one liked that ending as they felt it was too much of a downer. So it was rewritten to the ending shown in the movie. And I won't go into that since we won't go into spoilers. But yeah,
Right.
that they would have been a pretty. That one would have been a bummer of an ending. If they had done it that way, with all of them dying.
Yeah. 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 That would have been terrible. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, it's just there's only a few times where you're going to be able to see, old Blue Eyes, Frank Sinatra, and Dean Martin chopping it up, and genuinely entertaining each other while you are being entertained, which is also cool. Which also goes into kind of that cool, kind of the spin-off of this, I guess, that kind of came around the same time was the Tonight Show. Also, like that concept of like hanging out, having a guest, having a band. That thing had been iterated on many times. So you saw that too in this movie in a way. But anyway, that's all cool. It's just cool. All cool all the way around, and good for just cinemaphile. In a heist, it's unique. Probably not the best heist movie ever, but it doesn't matter when you have the cast you have here.
Yeah, yeah, and and I was kind of thinking, yeah, you were able to do it in the 2000s with the big names of Hollywood
Hmm.
during that time. Although now I don't know this newer generation of Hollywood if you could really do it because you don't really got a lot of men's men, but
Yeah,
whatever. But yeah, it's definitely a thing of its time and a little time capsule that's fun to check out. So if you haven't checked it out, it is on Tubi. So I'll try to advertise that on our on Tubi, but they haven't been liking us on
nope.
Reddit. So you know, kind of shake our head in frustration. But yep,
Shame, shame, yeah,
same.
shame. All right. Well, we will hang our heads in shame, and
Mhm.
we'll try to power through it. But I've been Mike.
And I'm Tom. I'll take you out with "You Will Live."
Awesome. I'm gonna push the button.